Hi friends, welcome back to my sewing room and welcome to week 6 of our spooky sampler sew along. It's officially October, which makes this feel especially appropriate and seasonal. We just did Halloween costumes in my house. They just showed up and the kids did the pumpkin patch this week, and so everything's getting all festive out here, which is awesome because I love fall and I love Halloween, and I've got at least one kid that is beyond obsessed with Halloween, and so we always have a good time with it. So let's talk spooky sampler because I'm excited to work on this quilt some more because I want it done for Halloween, which will be fun in my house. So this week we are working on our 2 spider blocks. They turn out adorable, by the way. I think that they're so cute, and I love that they're made with spiders because really what else would be appropriate? Anyway, they can look kind of complicated. When I first glanced at it in the pattern, before I read the pattern, I was concerned that we were going to be using an interesting ruler or cutting method to get these directions and these sharp, skinny, little angular lines, but luckily we don't. It is simply half square triangles and flip and stitch corners, and if you're accurate with them, they line up beautifully, and we have adorable spider legs. Guys, I am not 100% accurate. You can see a couple of my points didn't line up perfect, and guess what? They're still cute, and I'm not redoing them because I still love them and nobody will ever notice but me. And now you, because I just showed you really close up. Anyway, so my only real tips and tricks for this block, you guys, is square up your half square triangles for sure. You're going to have some extra set them aside. We'll use them later, but square up your half square triangles. Use a little bit of best press or starch or whatever method you use to keep your fabric nice and flat. No steam because it will distort. And just be very careful and be very accurate and trim up as you go, and things will turn out beautifully. And then you have adorable spider legs. So go ahead. There's only 2 of them, so I took it easy on you this week. If you would like, when I planned this sew along, I debated long and hard about whether or not to include the vertical candies this week with the spiders or not. And I ultimately decided not to, but then me being me, I worked ahead. And I made my vertical candies. So in this quilt, we have 12 candies, okay? There are 8 horizontal ones that are what go in these missing sections, you can see here. And there are 4 vertical ones. If you're using directional fabrics, you cannot chain piece them all and do them all together, all 12 at once, because you're gonna have things a little messed up. So I went ahead and separated them, my vertical pile and my horizontal pile, which, by the way, were even cut differently when we did our cutting. So you should already kind of have a breakout of how those go. But I went ahead and did my 4 vertical ones because now what I can do is I can assemble the center section of my quilt. And I love being able to take assembly a piece at a time as we go through. So if you'll notice, like, my pairs of ghosts and my pairs of pumpkins are assembled. I assembled my sets of bats. I assembled my 4 cat heads together. And I even put the sashing between the vertical candies. And I did that because if I do a little bit of at a time, and I do it as like leaders and enders even. Seriously, those big long strips between the cats were leaders and enders while I worked on spider legs. No joke, but it's totally effective because then I don't have to be irritated by having to do it all at once, because that's kind of how I am. I don't love that part. And so when I can bite it off a small piece at a time, it works out really well for me. So after having done my vertical candies this week, I get to go ahead and assemble the middle, which is super fun. If you want to see close up to the vertical candies, and I'll talk about them a little bit more next week, but I want to show them to you. They are simply, once again, half square triangles, and we have flying geese up here, and flip and stitch corners on our half square triangles. Now, the ones for this week, the horizontal ones, all 4 fabrics, both oranges and both purples, are directional. So we do have to pay extra careful attention. For next week, only one of the 2 is directional, which really simplifies a lot, to be honest. But they're pretty simple, and then I love this. I know working with narrow strips of fabric is kind of a pain, but I really love that the flying geese block, that's the candy tie, is narrower than the candy block because it feels way more appropriate to scale. And so those little narrow strips, they were a little fuss to cut and stuff, but I think that they were really effective at giving this block the right scale. And I love how it turned out. Anyway, I hope you're having a good time. I hope you're loving this. I've been loving it. I love sampler quilts and I love Halloween, so this was just a perfect tie for me. And I have enjoyed watching what you guys are doing. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.